some of the state nomination updates, especially for Victoria. I will also be covering some of the common questions and issues that the students are facing and the areas that they usually get stuck, especially with the 485 applications, partner visa applications. So I'll be covering a little bit of every visa, especially which are the main common issues the students are facing in lodging their visa applications. And I would also like to share that we are having an education summit for 5 days, where the registered migration agents and education counselors, qualified education counselors, will be talking about the courses and the benefits of studying the courses. I'll share my screen and presentation. Feel free to ask questions as well related to migration or any course questions. I will try to answer as much questions as I can in the session, and the ones that I'm not able to answer in the session, I will be more than happy to cover them after the session as well. So I'm just going to share my screen now. Okay. Okay, so everyone, again, this is Gunjan, and I work as a registered migration agent in the Melbourne office, Collins Street. As I mentioned, Aussizz Group is having an education summit 2022. It's a 5 days event, and starting from 31st of January, 12 p.m. till 4th of February. Now, in this 5-day session, we are going to covering a lot of topics. The good news is that there are people from representatives from the university are also going to be joining. So the 5 days cover the science, technology, engineering, management courses and their careers. So that's going to be day 1. Day 2 is going to be about the health sectors, the community sector, social workers, all the health and community educated, the side sectors that is going to help you and what you're going to study, what are the benefits of studying those courses. So that's going to be covering in day 2. The day 3 is about the vocational courses, the trade courses. Day 4 is about the benefits of studying in regional areas. And day 5 is about the student support day. You get a chance to ask questions, and you get answers to basically all your questions. You get the chance to listen to the students, the university representatives. So it's a really, really good opportunity to get basically it's free advice. You don't need to pay anything. You just need to click on the link, and you can register yourself and attend the live session. It's a virtual session, so you can watch it from your mobile, from your laptop. And it's, I'm going to share how it looks like. So when you open the registration page, you just need to click on register for free. It gives you a lot of details about the day 1. So 31st of January from 12 p.m. it starts 12 to 2. You're talking about the IT programs and career pathways. And like I mentioned, students, you get to hear the representatives from the university. So day 1, Swinburne University, day 2, engineering programs and career pathways, migration agents joined by representative Curtin University. It's a really good opportunity for everyone to hear from the experienced migration agents and qualified education counselors about the future pathways. Similarly, and then day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, we're going to be covering so many topics. So register yourself. When you click on the link, register yourself for free and get a chance to attend the sessions. All right. Now let's go to some of the eligibility options for Victoria and New South Wales. Now, as everybody knows that Victoria and New South Wales opened up the state nominations options for the students who have completed studies in Australia, specifically in their own state. So for example, Victoria opened up the target sectors, which I'm going to be talking about in the next couple of slides. Basically, one of the common questions I get is that what is the difference between 190 and 491? So that's a skilled migration program. Basically for 190, it's a permanent residency. After you get permanent residency, you can work and study anywhere in Australia, sponsor your partner, relatives. It's a permanent resident visa. You become eligible to become an Australian citizen. The 491, on the contrary, is a temporary visa. It's called a provisional permanent residency. It's not a permanent residency, it's a provisional PR, where you get a chance to live in Australia for 5 years, and you need to live and work in the designated area for 3 years, and then you become eligible for the permanent residency. I'll take some questions after. I'll just finish some of the slides. Okay. Now, just a little bit of step-by-step process about the Victoria nomination step-by-step process. So you make an expression of interest, submit the registration of interest. Keep in mind that the EOI number that you are lodging in the expression of interest has to match the ROI. Otherwise, you'll keep waiting and you won't not going to get invited if your EOI number doesn't match the ROI. Once you've lodged the ROI, you need to wait for the invitation. Once you get invited, you need to lodge your nomination to the Victoria portal and then wait for the nomination grant and then lodge the visa application. Now, this is just a step-by-step process. However, I'm going to touch base what is important in these areas. Everybody knows that you have to lodge an expression of interest. Everybody knows that you have to lodge a ROI. However, what are the things that you guys miss out on where you do need to consult a registered migration agent, and where you can be just waiting for your nomination invitation or registration of interest invitation, and you might not get invited. One, maybe you have lodged on very low points. You have lodged on 65 points and the minimum points that the Victoria is nominating on 85 points. So these are the things that you need to be careful of. So it's just an overview. Mandatory if you're living in Victoria. Victoria is, at the moment, they are not inviting offshore candidates. Victoria is only nominating onshore candidates. So you must be living and working in Victoria. You should be working in the target sector using the STEM skills, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medical, the health sector. So if you're not working in STEM skills, it's very unlikely you're going to get invited from the Victoria state, whether it's for 491 or 190, doesn't matter. If you're not working in STEM skills, you will be just sitting and not being invited. So be under 45, which is the general eligibility for any migrant, a skilled migration visa. You must have competent English. Definitely the higher, the better, because you get more points. Have a valid skill assessment. Without a skill assessment, you cannot go to the next step of any nomination if you don't have a skill assessment. Need to have minimum 65 points. That's the minimum. However, it's obviously 65 points is a bit low to get invited from Victoria, rather, as a matter of fact, any state. So the aim should be to increase your point system. Some of the documents required: passport, English language test, skill assessment, resume, employment contract, which is mandatory, payslip, superannuation. So you need to check that your employer is paying you superannuation in your account. You need to log into your portal and check, because it is one of the requirements of the Victoria nomination. If you are hired a registered migration agent, then you need to submit an agent form as well. Some of the requirements for Victoria, you should be working in the target sector. Also, the good thing is they accept casual employment. So you do not need to be working full-time. Preferably, yes, full-time if you have full-time working rights. However, if you're working casual or part-time, you are encouraged to apply for the Victoria State nomination. Victoria State also has a lot of number of seats available. So the program is still open. And I'll go to the program overview after. So you need to keep in mind that don't get discouraged that if you've not still got invited, there are still a lot of people waiting for invitation, but there are a lot of seats available yet. They have not filled the whole quota yet. So you may have chances further. One thing you need to be careful of, if you're not working in your nominated occupation, for example, if you have lodged as a mechanical engineer, and you're working as a graduate, just probably an assistant, like an assistant engineer. If you're not working at a skill level, you will not be invited. So there's no point in lodging the Victoria nomination if you're not working in your nominated occupation at a skill level. Skill level means that you should be performing tasks of your occupation. Employment contract, most recent payslip, superannuation, as I mentioned before. The state can ask for additional documents, so it is better to submit what I usually prefer to submit a decision-ready application. If you submit a decision-ready application, it doesn't give an opportunity for the state to ask for further documentation, and it is not mandatory they ask for further documentation. They can always take a decision on the documents being provided to the state. So it is always better to submit a decision-ready application. Okay, so they also introduced workforce skill pathway. If you're working as a chef or a cook or a pre-primary school teacher, skill assessment from 𝐒𝐯, you're encouraged to apply. I'll get on to some questions. And also I've got my mobile number at the bottom here. So please feel free to text me, or if you're offshore, outside Australia, you can WhatsApp me, and I will reply to you to have a short discussion about your visa pathways. I'll take some questions here. What about IT guys in Victoria with skill assessment and 90 points? So IT, depends what occupation is it as well. Computer network system engineer, they received invitations as well. Software engineers, or you're talking about business analyst. Sometimes business analysts haven't received that much of invitations as compared to software or computer network. 90 points is a good score. I'll show you the Victoria overview. Sometimes students forget to check the overview of the Victoria. So on 31st of December, Victoria released the minimum points they have invited the candidates in each sector. So it's not about the occupation as well. It's also about which sector you are lodging in IT. Engineering technologists for Victoria, yes, it is a little bit tricky with engineering technologist. One, I think that the number of applications is huge. So it is sometimes not only based on the occupation and the points, it is also based on the sector they are inviting. But I always encourage everybody to keep your options open. For example, if you've got a job offer from Western Australia, you might as well, rather than waiting for the Victoria state nomination, you may as well try other states. So it's good that you have lodged your Victoria nomination, but it's always good to keep your options open. You can contact me on this number and I can arrange a one-to-one consultation. You can have a chat with me for 10-15 minutes. And then if you want a detailed consultation, then we can book it separately. Okay, I'll get on to my next slide and I'll take more questions in a while. Okay, just give me one moment. Okay, now I've just listed some of the facts that's going to cover a lot of questions what students have asked me and they are going to ask me. So ROIs, it doesn't cost anything, they're for free. So Victoria is basically giving a chance for you to lodge your nomination and they don't charge you anything. There are no submission windows. ROIs may be submitted anytime. Now I get a lot of questions that, okay, when am I going to be invited next? So there's a usual time frame of 40 to 45 days, but they haven't mentioned, okay, this is the submission window. You can submit it anytime, but invitations, yes, they happen usually in a month or 2 months time, but there is no time that you can submit. But I encourage to submit it before this program closes, because you don't know in end of financial year, they're going to revise the occupation for the Victoria. What is the shortage, skill shortage? So it's better to put in your expression of interest. Applicants must be living and working in Victoria in a STEM field in a target sector. So if you are living in Victoria, if you've lodged your expression of interest or ROI, and you have relocated to a different state, you've started working there. So please do note that you will not be eligible to apply for the Victoria nomination because you have given your information to the state that you are working and living in Victoria. So I do recommend that if you are relocating, then please check with the registered migration agent or consult someone before you take that step. You can only have one active ROI in the system. So you cannot lodge for 190 and 491 together. you can only lodge one ROI in the system. So if you've lodged a 190, let's say if you've lodged a 190 on 65 points, it's a bit unrealistic to expect an invitation, especially just let's say mechanical engineer on 65 points. A bit unrealistic to wait for the invitation. So you might as well try for 491, because for 491, the state gives you 15 points. And recently, Victoria started inviting candidates for enrolled nurses. So I'll get on to my next slide, and that just changed recently. You cannot have a separate ROI for each visa subclass. Like I said, you can only lodge one ROI in EY, either for 190 or 491. You cannot update an ROI. If you think your circumstances has changed, you've changed jobs, you must withdraw that ROI and submit a new one. There's no point in leaving that ROI in the system, because when you will get an invitation from the state and you submit a different employment contract, oops, that's not what you submitted to the department, and that's not what you have been invited for from the state. So if you have changed jobs, doesn't matter which sector it is, you must withdraw your ROI and submit a new one. Okay, so what changed recently? Again, I've got my contact number at the bottom here, and feel free to contact me or SMS me if you have any questions discussing related to your course. I'll take some questions here. I've got a lot of questions. 75 points for Cook in Victoria, any chance? Yes. 491, I encourage to apply. Nimish, if you have got a skill assessment and living and working in a regional or Victoria Metro, you encourage to apply for there hasn't been a lot of invitations, but yes, obviously there is hope that they will start inviting more candidates in the next round. Any chance for Baker at 90 points, state nomination 3, stream 3 and working in, so stream 3 for New South Wales. Yes, Venkat, you can apply for 491 stream 3, New South Wales. However, keep in mind that the New South Wales regional areas, they prioritize candidates on stream 1 and stream 2. So stream 1, even if you are living in New South Wales regional area for 3 months, you can put in your expression of interest and the registration of interest for the New South Wales stream 1. But keep in mind, they have submission windows. So January was a window and it will be closing soon. So maybe if you have a job there in New South Wales regional area, you can move there and then you lodge your registration of interest, because in the page of ROI, they have this question that where are you currently located? And someone who's already located in New South Wales regional area, they would definitely prioritize those candidates who are living in that state. And that's what every state wants, that when they issue you a 491 nomination or a 491 visa, they expect you to work in that regional area. So someone who's already working in a regional area in that New South Wales, they would prefer candidates. So March is the next window after January. So would recommend that you lodge your New South Wales stream 3, but don't completely just rely on the stream 3. Depends on when is your visa expiring as well. You need to make a plan. If your visa is expiring soon, then you need to lodge a valid application. And if you don't get your invitation by your visa expiry, then you need to make some backup options. We'll take some questions here. Working in public, Mariam is asking, I'm working in public aged care regional Victoria for 1 year and have 90 points, including states. So I've already applied for ROI. What are the chances of getting invite? 90 points, that's really good chance. I assume that you have a skill assessment in registered nurse aged care. Next invitation round, there's no fixed date for invitation round. However, if you go to the New South Wales overview, I'll share my screen and show you where to check the dates. When have they updated and how many points they have invited in health sector. 75 points for Cook in Victoria, 190, experience 6.5 years. Okay. Nimish, so you have got 6.5 years. Have you got your employment assessed as well? Good opportunity if you have an employer, because 186 direct entry, 3 years of experience, got your skill assessment. Maybe you can look for a restaurant for employer sponsorship. You can contact me on my mobile number and we can discuss that in detail. Okay. Do they call the employer before sending the nomination after documents submitted? So Ricardo, there's nothing that stops the state to do a verification check. And they do not inform you or us or the employer that they're going to call. So the department, the state has got the rights to do any verification checks, whether you are actually working in that place or not, because not necessarily Victoria, it could be any state, Western Australia. They recently, I've had someone telling me that they did some checks for the Western Australia employers, whether the people have started working in that employer or with that employer or not. Yeah. Okay. So what changed recently? The Victoria 190 and 491, there's some occupations being added. They're not very, like I obviously I have experience that they're more of IT, engineers, accountants, nurses. But why they have added these occupations is because obviously the state is given an indication that these are the skills required for the Victorian state. So there's a skill shortage, that means. So medical laboratory scientist, it's a good opportunity if you have got a skill assessment, because there are a lot of people who are studying this course, the laboratory scientist, psychologist, hospital pharmacist, social workers. A lot of people interstate are going to complete social work. This program is going to be running till this financial year. So if you have recently completed your social work, you've got your skill assessment as social work, if you're working in Victoria, if you're getting a job in Victoria, it's a good opportunity to apply for 190 or 491. So for 491, enrolled nurse, 190, no invitations, only 491. People are getting invited for 491 for enrolled nurse. So that is a bit of like an improvement, because from the Victorian state side, because last year when they introduced this program, they didn't invite enrolled nurses at all. So this is a good opportunity for 491 Victoria. Okay. Now, if you want to have a bit of idea, the Victoria just gave some data on the 31st of December that the processing times, like, because I was asked this question for the processing times, 75% is 32 days, 43 days, and then 491, 32 days, 43 days. So that's a little bit of indications about the processing times. Okay. New South Wales, just a little bit of touch base about what changed recently is that they, as everyone knows, that they added 3 years work experience requirement. I know that's a little bit of difficult thing to reach, about 3 years work experience. However, you need to keep in mind that if you have 3 years of experience, you are going to be prioritized, and it's open for offshore candidates as well. So I have had a lot of inquiries about offshore candidates, especially engineers. They have a 3 years requirement, and it's open to offshore candidates. So if you're offshore and if you have a skill assessment or you're eligible to apply for a skill assessment, if you're applying for it, do get your employment assessed as well. Because if you have your employment assessed, it is one of the mandatory requirements. For onshore candidates, you have to be working and living in New South Wales for the last 3 months. Or, so it's either or you have to be working there for the minimum of 20 hours per week. If you're offshore, you need to be offshore for at least 3 months. It's not that you depart and then live there for 3 weeks and just apply for New South Wales offshore program. You need to be offshore for at least 3 months. Have a valid skill assessment for the unit group. So New South Wales released a list of occupations where you can apply if you fall into the offshore category. Okay, so a couple of things to take care of. This is what I've listed is because on a day-to-day basis, when I'm consulting clients or consulting students, these are the places where they make mistakes. So I know a lot of people lodge their expression of interest and ROI themselves, but I do recommend to consult a registered migration agent, because it's not that there's going to be a difference in the outcome, like a drastically, but Obviously, we talk from experience, and we know what are the mistakes that usually the clients are doing. So for New South Wales, you cannot claim work experience if you, especially with ACS and VETSS. So if ACS say your deemed skill date was last year, 2021, so that's not 3 years of experience. So you need to have 3 years of employment assessed. Now, this is matter of fact for any state or any, even if you lodge your visa. So you need to be careful if you're claiming points for employment. If you have lodged your points in error, they're not going to change it. Once it's done, it's done. If you receive a nomination, you cannot change it. Okay. Now, this is general visa issues that I have experienced recently. And I'll take some questions before I get on to the issues that I usually hear from the students. Okay. Now, like I mentioned, I've got my contact details. You can contact me for any questions. Okay. Right. So Manish is asking 9,500 points as a developer programmer and joining healthcare sector. So you will have good chances, Manish. So I would recommend you to lodge your Victoria registration of interest. Now be careful with the health sector. Now health sector with the Victoria 190 and 491, Victoria is going to prioritize candidates who are directly working with the hospital. So let's say if someone's working directly with the Royal Melbourne Hospital or directly in a nursing home, not through an agency, they're going to prioritize candidates. They're very clearly listed as that on the website. So if you're going to joining the health sector, let me know what kind of, are you going through an agency? Are you going to be working in a hospital or nursing home, or what you're going to be basically doing as a developer programmer for the hospital or in the health sector? Or I have a lot of clients who are working in a manufacturing company who have got clients in the health sector. So it's like indirect health sectors. You need to be careful because if you fall under manufacturing, advanced manufacturing or renewable, so I would rather lodge your registration in the renewable sector rather than the health sector. So you can have a discussion with me and we can take that forward. All right. Health Promotion Officer for Victoria. For the disability sector, Hafiz is asking. So Hafiz, have you got your skill assessment as a health promotion officer? You can lodge it in the health sector, but I would recommend to keep your options open with other states. And let me know how much experience do you have. We may look for other state options. South Australia can be a good option. Tasmania, Northern Territory, if you have a job offer, because usually with these nursing agencies or health related, they have branches in different states as well. So employer sponsored, applicable, or only EN, enrolled nurse, yes, you can apply, but you need to keep in mind that enrolled nurse is in a short-term list. So because the occupations that are in a short-term list, you can only apply for a 2 years visa with a 2 years extension for a 482. 491 you can apply. So Victoria 491 enrolled nurse, they invited they had a lot of invitations recently. So if you're an enrolled nurse 491 working in a regional area, I would encourage you to apply for 491 Victoria. So Rosie is asking, it's a good question for secondary school teacher in Victoria. So I recently attended the last seminar that the Victoria State did. They encouraged teachers to apply. I know that the workforce skill pathway has got pre-primary school teacher from 𝐒𝐯𝐴, but I would still recommend you to apply for if you have got your skill assessment as secondary school teacher, I would encourage you to apply. For pre-primary school teacher, it can be casual, doesn't need to be full-time. So Victoria has clearly mentioned that they will accept the casual employment as well. But make sure that your super tax, everything is paid, because you will have to provide the documents. Can we change employer once we get the nomination and before having the visa 190 granted? So once you have been invited by the nomination, you may change your employer. It depends. If you have got your nomination granted, And have you lodged your 190 visa or not? So if you have lodged your 190 application, it's okay. But I would still recommend that you discuss it, because you cannot just quit an employment because that's what on the grounds of you have been invited. So I would suggest that you discuss it with me or any agent to before you make that decision. I was in Sydney for 5 years. So what are the chances of getting PR as a restaurant manager? Restaurant manager, it depends because it's in the regional list, we can look for state nomination in the regional area. You can apply for 494. 494 is the employer-sponsored visa. It's similar to like 491 is a 5 years visa. The difference is 491 is state-sponsored and 494 is employer-sponsored. So it's a 5 years visa where you live and work in the regional area for 3 years and apply for 191. Chances of registered nurse, critical care and emergency with 75 points. Yes, 491 you may apply that have more chances. I'll show you the Victoria overview that was recently published. So when you go to the Victoria website, you can check the lowest points by target sector they released. So I'm being asked a lot of questions that I have lodged my EOI and ROI on 65 points for 190. However, if you look at this data, lowest point selected to date is 85 points for the health sector. Digital is 95 points. So you need to keep checking and do some research before you, or consult an agent, or you can consult me before you lodge your EOI and ROI. It's not just about just clicking and submitting it away. You need to analyze as well at the same time whether are you genuinely going to get invited on that points or not. So if you look for the cook and chef, you can check for 491, 190, they have selected 95 and 85 points. So if you've got 65 points and you've lodged a chef, Victoria 190, highly likely you're not going to get invited. So I have encountered a lot of people coming to me that they say that I have lodged my 65 point chef, but I've been waiting for the nurse because it's unrealistic, because these are points they have been inviting on. So you need to keep checking this, or you can consult. Now, this page, I will discuss this in a few minutes once I take some more questions. Okay. When 482 short-term holders are access to PR applications. So Gautam, because 482 is in a short-term list, you can apply for 2 years visa, employer-sponsored visa with a 2 years extension, and definitely 4 years is a time to analyze your situation. You can check if you can get an alternate skill assessment, or you're eligible for a state nomination, so we can look for further options. Okay. My brother wants to come to Australia on a student visa to do mechanical engineer course. That's good. Aim to get 190. What is the pathway at the moment? Studying in Geelong. Yes, Geelong is a regional area. So you can get in touch with me, and then I can also pass you on to the student admissions team. We can discuss the course, what will be the best suited according to his previous experience or qualification, depends what is his bachelor's in. And one, Anamika, if he has got bachelor's in engineering, I might look for his skill assessment, because if you've got experience, a lot of students come here for studying masters. I encourage people to come and study, but also at the same time, check whether are you eligible to apply for a PR on the basis of your bachelor's or not. So that's something that I would encourage for you to check. You can email me your brother's his resume, and I can have a chat with you separately. Now I'll get onto this slide, because the main purpose of this slide is that this is one of the very, very common mistakes that I have experienced the students have done already, and we cannot fix it because the rules cannot be changed. There are migration regulations that the case officer or the tribunal takes the decision on, and they cannot be overturned sometimes. For example, a client comes and says, I'm on a bridging visa. Hey, can I lodge my 485 visa? Sorry, I'm jumping from skilled migration to this 485 because the purpose is that to stop people doing this mistake. So their 485 visa is not jeopardized. So don't forget the 6 months eligibility requirement. Now, a lot of people think that my 6 months eligibility is only from the date I finished my course, which is true. However, you need to keep in mind that when you lodge your 485 visa, you should have lodged the 485 visa within 6 months of completion of course and of holding the student visa. So for example, if your student visa expired on 1st of December 2021, so you can lodge your 485 within 6 months. So that's January, February, March, April, May, June, 1st of June. So you cannot lodge your 485 after that. So the 6 months eligibility rules apply to the completion of course and to the 6 months of holding the student visa. So while you're on bridging visa A, I know a lot of students say, oh, I just want more time. So I understand that you want more time to stay in Australia. However, you need to keep checking whether you don't miss out on the opportunity to lodge the 485 visa, because that thing cannot be overridden. I've completed my studies and not received a student visa grant yet. So if you've completed your studies, this is the most common issue that the students are having. If you've completed your studies, not received a visa grant, you need to check with the department, follow up with the department. I encourage you to follow up with the department before your COE ends. If your COE has ended, the department doesn't have grounds to issue you a student visa because you don't hold an active enrollment. So on what grounds are they going to issue you a student visa? So you need to keep in mind that before your course finishes, you need to tell your agent or you follow up with the department for your visa decision. If not, if you're on a bridging visa, within 6 months, lodge your 485 visa. Jumping to partner visa very, very quickly. I'm in relationship with my girlfriend. Can I lodge a partner visa? So a couple of things to look after is that what visa you're holding. Bridging visa, are you onshore, you're offshore? So why I'm discussing about this quickly is because one of the mistakes that the people are doing who are lodging their partner visa without consulting someone is that they're not in a de facto, they're not married, and they're just lodging the application without any supporting documents. So keep in mind that any visa that you lodge with the department, the case officer has the authority to make a decision on the documents that you lodge at the time of application. Yes, it can be fought later in the tribunal. However, the case officer has the discretion to make the decision on what documents you're lodging at the time of application. I have 12 months of experience. Can I lodge an employer-sponsored visa? Yes. 482 needs 2 years of experience. 186, 3 years. 12 months of experience. In the last 24 months, you can lodge a training visa. So if your visa is expiring, don't just go ahead and lodge a COVID visa. Yes, if you want to study, you can lodge a student visa. COVID visa has different grounds, but just because the 408 visa is free with the department, that doesn't mean that you can just go ahead and lodge the 408 visa if you're not eligible. Because 408 visa, the department can grant for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 12 months. Yes, if you're working in a target sector, you will be granted for 12 months or 6 months. But if you're not working in the target sector, you have other options. So I would suggest that you keep your options open and lodge other valid visa application other than COVID visas. Now, again, I would like to mention that Aussizz Group is having an education summit that's a 5 days event. I will show you the registration link. Please go ahead and register yourself. It's free. And like I said, it will start from the day 31st of January till 4th of February. You can register yourself for free. Listen to the registered migration agents who are experienced, very qualified education counselors are going to be talking about. And then universities representatives are also going to be talking about. So it's a one-time opportunity for you guys to listen to the courses, the benefit of the courses, the benefits of studying in regional areas, because it is always good to plan the courses, what you're going to do. Even if you're here onshore, your visa is expiring, if you want to extend the student visa. I know there are a lot of people who take admission in diploma, leadership of management, which is good. But then you need to also understand that why you want to study that course. So in the Education Summit, which is a 5-day program, you will listen to the university representative, education agents, qualified education counselors, and registered migration agents who will discuss all the courses and the benefits. And that will include all state nominations as well, the skill assessments from each state representative. I can take one more question and then I will try to attend that after the session. Okay. I finished my Masters of IT, but I have my own business in retail. Can I sponsor myself for 184? So 184 is no visa. So 18648 to a 407. So Masters of IT in retail. So you need to keep in mind that most employer-sponsored visas, you need to have a qualification related to the nominated occupation. So let's say if someone wants to be sponsored as an accountant, so you should have a qualification related to accountancy. So if you have your business, let's talk about it. If it's retail, I need to probably check what kind of occupation you may be eligible for. So you can contact me on this mobile number or you can email me your inquiry, WhatsApp me, and I will arrange a consultation with you guys to discuss your personal visa pathways. Thank you, everyone. And do not forget to register yourself for the Education Summit. It is free and one-time opportunity, which doesn't happen very often. You get to hear from the registered migration agents, education counselors, and the university representatives, a lot of information about courses, state nominations, visas, everything. Thank you, everyone, and stay safe.